in which he's gone undefeated and untied. 19 players have won National Player of the Year 27 times. In the 86 through 1990 seasons, Coach Dorrance went 103 games without a loss, and then had another streak of 101 games from 1990 to 1994. In fact, the 4 longest winning streaks in NCAA history all belong to him. The sport has been shaped by Dorrance's direction and coaching, inspiring generations to come and countless athletes along the way. Carolina as a university and women's soccer as a sport are better for Coach Dorrance's time here. And we could not be more grateful for the time and dedication he has given to coaching our Tar Heels over the last 47 years. So Coach Dorrance, on behalf of this extraordinary university, thank you. Thank you for all you have given to Carolina and beyond during your career. Your legacy is unequaled, and I'm extremely glad I had the chance to be a small part of your time here at Carolina. We wish you all the best in retirement. Thank you again from all of us.
Thank you, Chancellor.
Thank you, Chancellor. We look forward to working with you. Anson informed me on Friday that he was going to announce to the team on Sunday that he was going to retire. So you overlapped with Anson for 47 minutes, which is incredible. Anson also, when we said we're going to meet on Sunday, we're going to meet with the team. Then after that, we'll have a few interviews and do a few videos for social media and things that we could put out. So I get over to the team building, and he's talking to the team. He walks out and says, "Okay, I'll see you later. I'm going to turn my phone off and play pickleball." He doesn't do any interviews. He doesn't do the videos. He just leaves. So I go in and talk to the team and let them know what we're going to do in the next couple of days. And then I leave and I say, "Where's Anson?" "Well, he's gone." So I call him. He doesn't answer. So he's true to his word. I turned my phone off and I'm playing pickleball. But what he sent me was an email today that said that he told the team that he was an introvert, a non-hugger, so they let him leave with dignity. So he immediately left. But Anson, congratulations on an incredible career. I think many people here know that your career started at the Rainbow Soccer League. And you said this is absolutely fantastic. There's no recruiting, there's no keeping score, and no one cares who wins. Perfect. I like to recruit, I like to win, and no one cares if I do. So that's an ideal job for you, and you continued to do that for 47 years. Incredible recruiter, you won all the time, and we could not be more proud or lucky to have you leading the University of North Carolina women's soccer program for those 45 years. It is now time to do something that we've never done before. There's no way in the world that we can replace Anson Dorrance. But for the first time in our history, we're going to have to find the second coach in the history of North Carolina. Damon Nahas, who's here today, will be our interim coach for this year. And Damon, congratulations, and thank you for allowing us to do that. Damon and I have had a number of conversations, but we also know that a competitive process is what the entire soccer program is built on, is how you would get this job. So he'll be the interim coach for this year. We will then do a very rigorous national search for a second coach for our soccer program. And it's an incredible testament to Coach Anson Dorrance of who's here today. We have so many former coaches here, so many former staff members here. I want to personally thank you for being here to support Anson, because this day really is about Anson. But a couple of things that Steve Kirshner told me today about our soccer program that I didn't even know. that if we evaluated this women's soccer program as an entire athletic department, they'd be in the top 30 all-time in national champions. Just one program, and it's incredible what he's been able to do. I know you all remember the quote from Coach Smith when they asked him about our basketball program and said, UNC is a basketball school. And he said, no, we're not. We're a women's soccer school. And that is so, so true. Coach Williams said that he's been around incredible coaches in his career. He said none of them any better than Anson Dorrance, the best coach that he's ever been around. Karen Shelton has said that Anson set the standard for this department, and she won 10 national championships. So the culture of this department has been built on our coaches, and he's been a leader of this department for 47 years. Anson, we can't thank you enough for your commitment, your dedication, and your support of the university as well as the athletic department. You've transformed soccer at this community and across the world. I will say in closing that I am somewhat relieved that you are retiring. You have a never-ending ascension to grow and be a lifelong learner. You have subscribers that subscribe to your newsletter. You get quotes and books and things. And you've been fleecing my mother for the last few years. She has subscribed to this so that she could learn more about you. She was devastated when I called her yesterday to let her know you were retiring. So she will be here at some point to honor you. But Anson, congratulations, and let's turn the microphone to you so you can address the group. Thank you very much, and congrats.
Thank you, brother. Thank you. Well, Chancellor, thank you. Bubba, thank you. Obviously, I am a proud son of the University of North Carolina. I have loved every day that I've been here, and I've appreciated everyone that's made a contribution to allowing me to be a part of this extraordinary community. I guess I want to start by honoring my coach, Dr. Marvin Allen. Dr. Marvin Allen was a wonderful man. He was a gentleman coach. He would come to the games in a coat and tie, and he had a real formality to him that I thought was unique. And as a result, Bill Palladino and I used to wear a tie for every game we coached in. We wore the tie to honor that great man that both of us played for. I really appreciated everything about him. He treated us well. He taught us about basically sportsmanship. He treated the opponents well. He was gracious in victory and gracious in defeat. And he set a huge standard for me to follow in a very personal and positive way. I wasn't aware of this, but obviously he was close to retirement. So he went in and he spoke to Mr. Bill Kobe. And what he told Mr. Kobe was to hire me. All of a sudden, out of the blue, I get a call from Bill Kobe, and he wants to speak to me. And I'm thinking, okay, clearly we're starting this search for his replacement. So I had assembled, in my opinion, the 4 best coaches in America to basically take over my program that I absolutely loved. And I'm sitting there, and I'm prepared to tell Mr. Kobe who I recommend. And he says, Anson, I want you to be our next men's soccer coach. Well, my jaw hit the floor. As Bubba mentioned, my coaching resume was coaching recreational soccer teams in Rainbow, which is a coeducational rec league. They meet out in Glen Lennox, and I went from coaching Rainbow soccer to the top of Division I. I can't tell you a more ridiculous climb than that. In fact, one of the things I really enjoy when I do coaching clinics is I tell them my coaching progression. Rainbow soccer to the top of Division I, and I wish everyone in the room luck. And of course, this is absolutely ridiculous. And I love Bubba's description of the Rainbow Soccer League. Yeah, this was basically set up by a friend of mine who was an absolute hippie. His name was Kip Ward. Kip Ward did not believe in keeping score. He didn't believe in standings in the league. And Bubba's right. He didn't believe in, recruitment or anything. And so basically, I was in an environment that was absolutely built for me because I did believe in recruiting and I did believe in winning. So there's a wonderful African-American neighborhood right next to the Rainbow soccer fields called in Glen Lennox. And I would go over there and I would scout basketball games, and I would start to recruit kids off the basketball court to basically be my spine. So I would have an elite athlete in the 9, an elite athlete in the 10, an elite athlete basically at a center back and one in goal. And what was really cool about this environment is I believed in beating everyone to death by the maximum score in every game possible. And of course, what I loved is I was in the perfect environment because in theory, all of my opponents embraced this philosophy because they didn't really believe in keeping score and it didn't matter to them. Obviously, what ended up happening to me is I had a wonderful exposure to the hypocrisy of teams that basically feel like, winning isn't the important thing. And I was excoriated in this league. So that was the beginning of my excoriation as a competitor. So I was trained in that league to basically go after everyone 100%. And then what was really fun for me is when I jumped into Teague dorm. I transferred into the University of North Carolina. I got in here as a second semester freshman, and Danny Newcomb was the intramural director in Teague dorm. And he comes down to my room and he said, I hear you're an athlete. We take intramurals here in Teague very seriously. And I would like to hand you a list of all the sports that we play here in the winter and in the spring. And please tell me if you think you can play on any of these teams and represent the dorm. I said, well, please show me the list. And so Danny Newcomb hands me this list, and I look at it for a minute or two, and I hand it back to him. I said, Danny, if you want to win, put me on every single team. I wasn't joking. Freddie Coger, will you stand up, please? Freddie and I and Danny Newcomb started a 17-year intramural dynasty in Teague dorm. And just like with Rainbow, where everyone didn't matter who won, of course it matters who wins. We decided to do everything to basically beat everyone to death. The only column we didn't do well in was the sportsmanship column. And for some reason, no one voted us good sports for the entire 17 years. But here's what we did. We did something unique in intramurals. We actually trained. What a unique idea. Another thing we did in intramurals that was unique, we actually recruited. So if there's a great high school athlete coming in from, Clinton, North Carolina, or Morehead City, all of a sudden that athlete was recruited to be in Teague dorm. Everyone hated us on campus, and we loved the fact that we were hated by everyone on campus by beating everyone to death. And what did basically the intramural powers try to do to basically shatter the dynasty? They cut us in half. So they split the dorm in half. So basically now we were, Teague A and Teague B. We convinced all of the athletes to move under the same 2 floors, and the dynasty continued. So obviously, I want everyone to know my origin story, because I was trained in Teague dorm to basically beat everyone to death and everything. I was trained in rainbow soccer to gut everyone at every opportunity. And so for me, this is my training program. Between all of these intramural matches, of course, I had to go to class because I had to remain eligible for the soccer team in the fall. I had to remain eligible because I didn't just play soccer, I also played on the rugby team, which I also loved. And I loved everything about this university. So what I want to do right now is certainly thank Dr. Marvin Allen. I had no ambitions to coach. In fact, my dad's dream for me was to be his corporate attorney. He wanted me to go to law school. I loved my father. I was a dutiful son, so I did. I went to law school for him. But before I got there, Mr. Kobe offered me a part-time opportunity to coach our men's team at UNC. Normally, you finish law school in 3 years. It was taking me 4, because I was taking a course shy in each semester in order to get the degree. And then all of a sudden, as I'm finishing up law school, I've only got basically 6 courses left. Mr. Kobe calls me and says, Anson, there's a women's club on campus that has petitioned for varsity status. Would you please vet them for me? So I said, oh, absolutely. So back in those days, there was a field right underneath the law school, and I went out there to look at the club play, and I was impressed. I said, Mr. Kobe, I think they're well organized, they're committed, yep, let's make them a varsity. I will share facilities with them. I think the coach has done a great job, and now I'm shilling for the coach. And he said, well, Anson, if you will coach both teams, we will make your part-time men's position full-time. And I said, fine, because obviously I was fully supported by this extraordinary woman that married me, because she was a wonderful professional dancer. She came to Chapel Hill, and she was hired immediately to coach and teach at a dance school. And she was supporting me. I wanted to contribute to the family income. And just so everyone in the room understands this, because I am extraordinarily competitive, it took me 15 years to catch her. So she was the primary breadwinner for the first 15 years of my marriage. And of course, I never knew what was going to happen with this women's team. But of course, one of the reasons I'm sitting here is because I just caught a bolt of lightning at the right time. And so I want to thank Bill Kobe that gambled on this rainbow soccer coach to coach his men's team. I want to thank John Swafford that started to support my effort to coach both teams. I also want to thank John Swafford because he allowed me to finally split the program. One of the toughest things about recruiting back in the old days is when I was recruiting a male player, the coaches that were recruiting against us would tell them, I'm spending all of my time with the women's team. And of course, if I'm recruiting a woman, they were telling me I'm spending all of my time with the men's team. I coached the men from 2 to 4 and the women 4 to 6. And at that period, just before the other practice started, sweet Melissa would be there with a drink for me and a sandwich. And then Bill Palladino and I would design the practice during the women's warm-up. So I want to thank Melissa for keeping me alive. One of my favorite moments about that is all of a sudden, and by the way, I'm not the most organized individual. If you want to check on this, just come to my office. I mean, if that desk caught fire, the university would burn to the ground. There's paper everywhere. So on this particular day when Melissa came, she comes and she's looking around and she can't find me. And she said, where's Anson? And they said, oh, he's off with the men's team. So I was off playing a game, you know, in some state, probably across the country. I had forgotten to tell my wife I was going on this trip. So poor Melissa had to put up with this. So I want to thank John Swafford for allowing me to split the program and all the support that he gave me. I also want everyone to know that because of the chaos, and I've had a lot of people that were asked to manage me. Beth Miller is somewhere in the room, and wherever you are, Beth, I want to, oh, there she is. I want to thank you for administrating my free spirit, because I'm sure I was a nightmare. I am sure you got hazardous duty for trying to curb my wild and reckless spirit, and I appreciate the way you navigated me in the most gentle way. I want to also thank Larry Gallo, that was given the unenviable task of continuing this management of me. And these are two extraordinary people that help corral my just crazy organization. We finally brought in Tom Sander to sort of quell the paper. Yeah. So, as Tom knows, when there's a memorandum coming across my desk, I don't even look at it. I throw it somewhere, it lands somewhere on the desk, and fortunately for me, Tom would catch it, and whatever it said was done. So Tom, thank you for organizing my life in the most positive way. Back in the day, gosh, it was fun because I was working with my best friend. Bill Palladino and I played together at the University of North Carolina, and I loved him. And we went into work every day to have fun. And he and I really did something I thought was special. So we constructed something that was fun to be a part of. We never took ourselves that seriously, and it made all the difference in the world. And what we had the ability to do is to attract extraordinary student athletes. And I want to thank Chris Dukar, who's sitting right there. He was a multitasker for me. He was my primary missionary in recruiting. He was also very agile with a computer. And of course, back then, and still to this day, by the way, I don't know anything about a computer. In fact, I'm so bad on my phone, I hired Corey Emmerich, who's sitting next to Chris, to tell me how to operate my phone. So I want to thank the people that have constructed my life in the most positive way. I love the fact that we brought in the most loving human being on the planet. Her name is Tracy Bates Leon. And when I hired Tracy, as she knows, she had one mission. What was your mission, Tracy?
To love your players.
That's it. That's her job. Her job was to love my kids. Do you guys feel loved by Tracy Bates? And I appreciated her for that. I loved coaching her. And by the way, her coaching resume is extraordinary. She was a world champion for me. She was a 3-time national champion as well. And then she was the first coach that at a youth world championship level won the world championship. She had 3 Tar Heels on her roster, and everything about her is absolutely extraordinary in the most positive way. And so I want to thank her publicly as well. I also want to thank Dickie Baddour. If we had to erect a statue to someone in my home, it would be to Dick. In the most challenging part of my coaching life, he wrapped his arms around me and protected me and my family from the chaos of the universe. I will be forever in his debt. And then, of course, I loved when Bubba came in. I had never had a contract in my life. I was at the will of the athletic director. And when Bubba came in, he wanted all of his coaches to be under contract. And I don't know how most of you coaches navigate your contracts, but I went in there and I've never done a contract negotiation. In fact, while Swaff was my athletic director, I was recruited by Stanford to coach their team. Stanford in our demographic is an extraordinary place to coach, because in our demographic, you're already ahead of the curve when you're recruiting. And I keep scoring everything, as you can imagine. We've gone head-to-head with Stanford 46 times. I have only beaten Stanford in recruiting in 46 head-to-heads. I've beaten them 6 times. So all the best players in the country basically end up at Stanford if Stanford wants them. And so I had to go out and look, because here's what I knew. If I accepted the job at Stanford, within no time I would have a 2 handicap in golf, because I wouldn't have to do anything except show up for the games, and we would beat everyone to death. While I was out at Stanford, touring their Rodin Sculpture Garden, and by the way, while I'm out there, looking at just this unbelievable campus and looking at the academic ranking of every single department, I get a call from my mother, who, by the way, is a native North Carolinian. And she said, Anson, if you go to Stanford, I'm putting my head in an oven. So that was that. Although let me tell you this, the housing allowance that I was going to get to move to Palo Alto is more money than I have ever seen in my life. So, Mom, I am not going to retire on a yacht in the Mediterranean, and it's thanks to you. And then Bubba came in. So I'm having my first, meeting with Bubba. And he wanted all of us to be under contract. So he said, Anson, what do you want? What do you want to get paid? And I was thinking, heck, I don't really know, but I'll throw some sort of number out there. I threw a number out there. Right out of his mouth, he says, well, that's not enough. And all of a sudden, it was the best contract negotiation, because clearly whatever I said was not enough according to Bubba, and he jacked it up significantly. So Melissa was able to finally retire. So Oh, that was kind of cool. So, Bubba, thank you. My wife thanks you. And I've really appreciated working for this extraordinary man. And you know what's interesting? I've never asked for a raise. Let me tell you something that's unique about the University of North Carolina. We have 28 sports. It's difficult to compete in 28 sports at a national level. And I've never gone in to whine about my salary or whine about my budget or anything, because you know what? It's a privilege to coach here. That's the way I've always looked at it. It is a privilege to coach at the University of North Carolina. I wasn't going to go in and whine for a higher salary after every national championship. That's ridiculous, because what would happen? We have limited resources here. I wanted all 28 sports to be successful. And so whatever I was paid was good enough for me. We were going to manage. I'm not an expensive hire. I don't, need to basically travel to Aspen every weekend to ski like I did in Switzerland every Monday. No. I love it here. I love everything about it. My favorite event, obviously beyond my own season, is the Directors' Cup. I root for every frigging team. And I'm so sorry, Scott, but baseball is the final, thing we've got to hit. I love what's happening. I love whenever we get into the College World Series. I love everything about it, because I know our Directors' Cup points are going to be jacked up, and I want to finish as high as possible. Let me tell you this, and I'm very proud of this. Only 3 schools have won the Directors' Cup. Stanford, who's won it maybe 500 times, the University of North Carolina, and is it Texas now? And that's it. I'm very proud of the fact that we are one of the 3. So I love everything about this school, and I love everything about the huge challenge that Bubba has to navigate the 28 sports. And finally, I would be remiss if I didn't tell you what all of this was built on. There's nothing profound about success in collegiate athletics. It's based entirely on the quality of the athlete that you recruit. And for some extraordinary reason, we have had some amazing athletes come here to represent this great university. And I've loved every single day of watching them achieve their potential. I have had so many moments like this, like on this past Saturday, where all of a sudden we've got 2 kids in the field, and these are velociraptors playing left and right back. Crystal Dunn on the left, Emily Fox on the right, as we win another gold medal in the Olympics. I am so proud of the extraordinary women that decide this is the school they want to represent. And that day for me was absolutely extraordinary. Another couple people I would like to talk about. I love the fact that Brittany Bartok has made social media an art form. I love the fact that John Bruner is now a part of my supervisory group. And I love the fact that he also loves my team like Tracy Bates and takes care of them in the most positive way. But I also want to talk about the man that's going to be the interim coach right now. Damon Nahas is the best coach I've ever seen. I think he's the best soccer coach in the country, and I include myself in that circle. I know that obviously we've got an opportunity with the sort of program we are to basically cast a huge net. And I know we've got a moral imperative to do all the right things to make sure that we embrace all of the extraordinary people that have represented our program. And I understand the enormity of the task that Bubba now has to absorb in this. But I want Damon to know that as my energy was ebbing, you came in and bolstered it. And I have loved everything you've done. As Melissa knows, I hate vacation. Whenever we used to go on vacation, I would think that someone was getting ahead of me. And I was stressed out the entire vacation. For my entire coaching life, I've never gone on a vacation longer than 7 days. Well, this past summer, Melissa and our family, and I'm talking about entire family, all of our kids, all of our grandkids, even our kids' girlfriends and boyfriends, we are all together in Lisbon first, where Melissa was born, then to Rome, then to Tuscany, and then to Vinci, obviously, to, all the places around there that all of us love. It's the first vacation I've taken in my life that was longer than 1 week. I came back absolutely refreshed. And you know what? Melissa kind of liked being on vacation for a couple weeks because I've never experienced that before. So thank you for convincing me to take that time. I want to thank everyone that obviously ran my soccer camps while I was gone. Because for this summer, it was run by Damon and Tracy and Chris and Corey and Elena, who we've also hired now. And by the way, what another great addition to my staff. I'm so excited about where we are, but also where we are going. So with that, as a final caveat to all the things that I've considered important, I want to let everyone in this room know it has been an honor to coach at the University of North Carolina. It has been an extraordinary honor to have in the southern part of heaven, to have a piece of heaven named after you. Are you kidding me? So Kathy and Gary Loveman and Bubba Cunningham, to name a piece of heaven after me is an extraordinary honor. Now, as Larry Gallo, who has prepared me for this moment incredibly well, knows, apparently I have to talk to HR now. And apparently when you speak to HR, there's this process that sort of spins you into retirement. And I've dealt with HR before, so I think that I'll probably still be working here until next May. Which is fine, because as you guys know, Bubba is clearly overpaying me, so I have no issue to be here until May. And the other thing, and if Vince is somewhere in here, I want to thank Vince. Vince, if you're in here somewhere, yeah, Vince, I want to thank you, because we had 11 kids sign pro contracts. Which we're very proud of, by the way, First Division pro contracts. We had another slew that jumped into the transfer portal, and Vince came to the rescue. He helped me bring in 15 ass kickers. And we played a First Division professional team last week, and we beat them 5-1. Vince, I want to thank you for letting me know that you were going to help me get every kid that we wanted. And we got every kid that we wanted. The landscape is changing, and I really appreciate your support. So, with that in mind, I guess I want to finish with this. There's a great scene in broadcast news where the sports anchor is now elevated to the main regular news anchor in New York. And he's on the phone, I think, with his father, and he has this extraordinary statement that always stuck with me. And he says, Dad, what do you do when your life exceeds your dreams? That's the way I feel. And I guess now I'm going to find out. So thank you very much. Thank you, my extraordinary collection of kids that have supported me every step of the way. I will be in player conferences with you. So make sure the core values are memorized. Make sure you are performing them when you're in front of me. And I can't wait to help you guys achieve your dreams as well. So, Chancellor, Bubba Cunningham, my colleagues in the coaching profession, I see Bill Lamb there. And by the way, that's one of the toughest SOBs I've ever known in my life. I appreciate seeing you there as well. I appreciate my origin story with Freddie in the Teague dynasty. I love having my entire family here, and my brother, who by the way lives here in Chapel Hill. I love my grandkids. I am so impressed with the fact that they have not been they haven't been able to overpower the Valium. They've behaved themselves the entire press conference, which I am very impressed with. But thank you. But yeah, I'm out of here. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Great job, Anson. Well, that's all the time we have today, so. What happened to 12 minutes? No, I'm just kidding. Okay, I'm going to take some questions here. Reminded, Chancellor does have a university to run, so we're going to tighten this up as quickly as we can, so I want you to get your opportunity. Evan in the back.
Coach, congratulations. You brought up the U.S. women's national team and, of course, winning the Olympics. I know you're extremely humble, but in your eyes, do you think they're in a position to win this gold medal if not for the foundation and experiences you've had with that team leading them in the past?
Well, that's a very kind leading question. That's a fabulous softball that you've thrown across the plate for me. Yeah, I feel like we've contributed. I think anyone that studies what we do, we have this thing we believe in called the competitive cauldron. The competitive cauldron is designed to develop a mentality that's second to none. Every single day in practice, every one of these extraordinary young women is given a ranking based on their performance in every single drill that is emailed to them at night. They are ranked. If they are fragile creatures, they are not going to be comfortable to find out that in this particular shooting drill, in a 23-player field player roster, they were 23rd. One of my favorite comments of all time was Danielle Egan, now Reyna, was playing for the youth national team, and Clive Charles, one of the great competitors I had to compete with when he was coaching at the University of Portland, was the youth national team coach, and he had taken the team to Europe to compete, and he had selected Danielle to be on his U20 national youth team. And he had just finished losing to, I think, the Dutch. And this is during a stretch when we never lost. I mean, we won every single game, and he couldn't wait to tease Danielle. So he comes up to Danielle and he says, well, Danielle, what does it feel like to finally lose a game? And this is Clive Charles calling me and talking about Danielle, because Danielle, after Clive asks, you know, what does it feel like to finally lose a game? She looks at him steely-eyed and says, Coach, at the University of North Carolina, we lose every single day. So what she was trying to tell him is that, yeah, the competitive cauldron is like, you know, competing on the surface of the sun. And so for me, when I was hired to coach the U.S. women's national team, I'm very proud of the fact that when I was hired in 1986, the United States had never won a game in international competition. 5 years later, we were world champions. There is a mentality that we have that's unique. And the thing I am most proud of with that, we beat the world at its own game. This isn't our game. This is their game. We beat them at their own game, and I'm so proud. And I just got this missive from Raymond Verheyen, who's a friend of mine. I've gone to some of his coaching schools. And he was basically, you know, slagging the U.S. team because Brazil had the majority of the possession and all these different elements. And I said, isn't it wonderful, Raymond, that the United States women's Olympic team and national team can win with one quality? Isn't it wonderful? We can win with our mentality. And so he and I are going back and forth on this. So thank you for that extraordinary softball. I hope the rest of you can throw an equally soft one across the plate for me, but I'm unbelievably proud of that. And by the way, in this team right here, Damon and I have identified some players that we think will eventually be playing for the U.S. full team one day, and we are excited about helping them develop.
Well, just to confirm, then just a quick follow-up. Are you retiring because you want a vacation for now on longer than 1 week?
Well, you know, as Melissa knows, I do hate vacations, but now she's winning me over. You know, eating gelato every night until I'm sick is actually kind of fun. And Bubba knows this, by the way. I don't like to get up in the morning. I like to spend, you know, half the night reading books. I love reading, and I don't want to get up. I don't want to get up for a meeting. I don't want to get up for an appointment. So for me, yeah, I'm going to sleep in. Melissa knows this. And Melissa knows, here's what Alexa hears just before I go to sleep. Alexa, wake me up in 9 hours. Sometimes it's 4 a.m. So do the math. You know when I'm waking up. So that's it. So again, thank you for that fabulous softball.
Murph, then Pat.
Coach, you mentioned that the landscape is changing. I wonder how much that played a role in your decision to step aside. We've seen a lot of legendary coaches decide, I don't want to deal with kind of what college athletics is going through.
No. I have no issue with the landscape changing. I think, there's always going to be change. There's change in our game, in the system we're going to play, you know, how we're going to train them. We want to sort of stay on the cutting edge of where the elite game is. And so we have to adapt to change. And the changes are actually, in my opinion, a lot of them are incredibly positive. And we just have to figure out a way to adapt. And so not at all. Not at all. The one thing that was really interesting, back in the old days, I thought email was so cool. There are two things that Damon knows about me. The first thing is I never want to clear another email for the rest of my life. Here's what's interesting about my phone, and Corey sets this up for me because he shows this to me. He says, oh, by the way, this week, every single day you have spent 4.5 hours on your phone. Are you kidding me? I want to get those 4.5 hours back. And so I'm never going to clear another email. Bad news, Tracy and Corey, very bad news. But yeah, I hate having everyone with access to you. And I read a Wall Street Journal article about 10 or 15 years ago that says that, you know, you should respond to people within 48 hours. And in the old days, it was returning a phone call, and now, of course, it's email. The volume of email that I get is between 200 and 300 every single day. And obviously, one of the many things I learned from Carolina basketball is they don't big-time anyone. If you represent Carolina basketball, you treat everyone incredibly well. You don't big-time a soul. And so while I was being mentored by Coach Smith and Coach Williams, that was a lesson they got into me. So I don't care who emails me, we are responding. And Tracy knows that. And I don't care, you know, I've been on so many podcasts. I did a podcast with a pair of 12-year-olds. I don't big-time anyone. And that was beaten into me by Coach Smith and Coach Williams, two extraordinarily humble and extraordinary men. So no emails, and I hate traveling. Melissa knows this. So I'm not going to travel. I'm not going to clear email. And I can't remember the question anymore. After all, I'm 73.
Shorter, direct, no.
Sure. All right. He's telling me to answer with sound bites. Okay, I can do sound bites. Here we
Pat,
go.
then Kip.
Anson, you addressed a little bit in your statement yesterday, but you know, why the decision to retire now so soon, close to the season?
Well, again, if you read the entire statement, you would have seen that, Dean Smith, an extraordinary mentor of mine, and what he was consistent with is when the season ended, he wouldn't make a decision on the next season. What he would do was, you know, let it marinate, and then he would come in, and then while he's in his preseason, just like we are now, he would make a decision. So for me, I'm following my mentor because that's exactly how he retired. I think, would all of you guys nod in the room if you agree Dean Smith is a pretty good mentor? Just give me a nod if you think, yeah, well, I think so too. I'm following my mentor.
What were you up against? You know, I mean, obviously, is this like the foot to the fire, like, hey, the game's here? Were you thinking of this for a while? Like, how close was it?
No. I mean, I'm into the Dean Smith thing. And eventually, and how old are you?
36.
Okay, when you hit 73, tell me if you want to clear email for 4.5 hours a day. Tell me if you want every weekend saturated with recruiting. Just tell me. And of course, you'll be chatting with my chat GBT because I'll be dead by then, of course. But what you will find out is eventually you're going to run out of energy. Do you understand what I'm saying?
I don't clear email now.
Kip, then Bob.
Anson, as one of the few media people here assembled who actually saw you play as an undergraduate, because I'm freaking old too. Well done.
Thank you.
I have a serious question. The timeline you discuss and Bubba discussed, Friday, you tell him you're retired. You hold that till Sunday to tell your players. Did you do that so you would not step on the gold medal game?
What a wonderful way to give me sort of a softball. No, it was actually less complex than that. Basically, our esteemed chancellor was being established on Friday. Basically, we didn't want to have competing news cycles. And so Kirsch, who I trust completely, said, Anson, do you mind doing it in this particular way? And I want Bubba to know I completely forgot that I was supposed to do those interviews after I spoke with the team. So it wasn't a deliberate walkout. I just completely forgot. It was like someone asked me a question, and usually when I start telling stories, I forget the question. So I just forgot, Bubba. I would have done it, I promise you. Yeah.
Bob, then Jordan.
Anson, the dominance your team's had for so many years, is it even possible, or what would it take for that to be replicated, especially in this college environment?
Well, obviously, an extraordinary amount of work, but it's not just work. I mean, luck has a huge part in a lot of things. I mean, we had some incredible teams, even in the last 6 to 8 years, that were gutted by injury. If you think about the kids we've lost in the last 6 years that were our best players, losing Alessia Russo to a broken leg, losing Emily Fox to an ACL tear. I mean, there are so many things that derail you. This past season, the people we lost, I mean, I'm looking at one right now. We have this absolutely brilliant kid coming back off an ACL tear. And it's really interesting. What game do we use in recruiting right now? We use the Florida State game. Why? Because most of our kids were healthy. Florida State, that's the greatest team Florida State has ever had in their history. Just look that game up and look at that game. Who's in that game? Well, some of these kids that were injured. And one of them I'm looking at right now. She's an absolute ass kicker. We can't wait to have her back. So luck is a factor. Good and bad luck are factors. And so there's so many different elements that are brought into play. So actually, I want to mention her name. So please, do you mind standing up to let everyone know who you are? Here she is. Yeah. Yeah, and actually, Kirsch is just recommending I review this a little more, and I certainly will. We want to do something special in athletics here. We would love to become revenue neutral. And the thing I really appreciate what Chris Ducar's been doing over the last 6 or 7 years is we're trying to figure out a way to get a crowd to every one of our games. Because Bubba was right. Originally, I wanted a 6,000 seat stadium, and Bubba was correct. 4 was enough. I want to make sure that eventually we keep selling out 4 so consistently that Bubba will build in that end zone that's open. And I appreciate Chris publicly for what he's done to put our attendance at a completely different level, because he's been working on that forever. And I think that's the future for athletics. We have to figure out additional revenue streams, and I want us to be one of them.
Time for just a couple more. Jordan?
We've seen different coaches take different approaches to retirement. I'm curious kind of how involved you'll be with UNC soccer moving forward, or what that will look like.
Oh, I'm going to be heavily involved because, as I said, I'm going to be on a full payroll until HR sorts it out, so I'll be here until May, cashing every check as slowly as I can. And what am I going to be doing? I'm going to be supporting Damon and these extraordinary women. And so, no, I'm going to be a part of their lives. I'm going to be a part of his life. Yep, I'm going to go over and watch my grandson play tennis a bit. I'm going to drag him over here. We're going to play a little golf together and pickleball. I hope my son comes down, because while he was here, it was hard to beat us in pickleball. I can't move very well, but my son is incredibly athletic, and when he's out there, I don't have to move. We can win almost every pickleball game, as Bubba will testify. So I would love it if Donovan came back on a regular basis. And of course, my ass-kicking eldest daughter is in town for this. Why? She flew the red eye from LA. Why? She's got things to do with her life. And of course, I am wearing this button because this chancellor here gave her an honorary PhD. So Dr. Dorrance, thank you for showing up for this press conference. And then I've got to tell you my favorite Natalie story, and maybe this counts, Natalie, so I hope this story doesn't embarrass you. So I am resigning from the U.S. national team. They have offered me the full-time position to coach the United States, and I didn't want to leave the University of North Carolina. I love everything about this place. And we're up in Canada, and all of a sudden I call my wife and I say, honey, I'm going to pull the trigger. So this is before even our games began in Canada. This is the beginning of the week. And she said, all right, I'm going to tell the kids. So she got the kids together, and she said, you know, Michelle, Donovan, Natalie, your dad is retiring from the full national team. And apparently, Natalie burst into tears. And she said, does this mean Daddy's not going to be famous anymore? Every time something happens that's extraordinary, I always call Natalie and I say, hey, Natalie, still famous.
Last question, Brendan.
You mentioned retirement and with pickleball, and I have been dealing with email. Was there a singular moment where this decision sort of crystallized for you, or was it more gradual over the last?
Yeah, actually there was. What I really appreciate about Bubba is he is handling a whole collection of coaches now that are retiring. And one thing he said to me that resonated in January of this year, he said, Anson, you've got to protect your legacy. And I thought about that, and the more I thought about it, the more I was thinking he's absolutely right. And so when we went out there with this extraordinary collection of young athletes and beat a first division professional team 5-1, I didn't want my last game to be, we're up 3-0 against BYU, and we give up 4 goals in the second half, and we are eliminated from attending the Final Four. I wanted my last game to be beating this professional team to death. And this goes back to that guy that enjoyed beating everyone to death in rainbow soccer, so my personality really hasn't changed that much.
Anson, Chancellor, Bubba, thank you very much. We're going to have Coach Nahas is going to be available over here, starting with the TVs. So if everyone can kind of excuse out of the room, we're going to continue on